Here we have a function and we're asked to find the domain and range for this function. So remember, the domain is all of the x values that the function takes on. The range is all of the y values. So what I like to do typically is take the graph and ask myself what parts of the x-axis are covered by the graph, because these are the x values that the points take on. Okay. So for example, -1. If I came here to -1, if I have an x value of -1, there is a point on this graph that has an x value of -1. Okay. -0.5. There's also a point down here that has an x value of -0.5. 1.5. X equals 1.5. Yeah, there's a point up here that has that for its x value. Okay, so the entire x-axis from -1 to 4 is covered by the graph. So the domain takes on all of the x values from -1 to 4, with those endpoints included like that. So here's our domain. Another way of thinking about it is to take the graph and to smash it into the x-axis, right? So if you take the graph and you squish it into the x-axis and then look to see what parts of the x-axis are covered, it's going to be everything between -1 and 4. The range is different because of the stepwise nature of this graph. So while there's an infinite number of x values here, everything between -1 and 4, there's only actually 5 y values that are included. -1, 0, 1, 2, and 3. And likewise, if you took the graph and smashed it into the y-axis, then there'd only be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things covered. So we go -1, 0, 1, 2, 3. So that is the range. So notice that we use interval notation for the domain because there's an infinite number of numbers. It's everything between -1 and 4. But for the range, we use the roster notation, which lists each of the individual elements of the set. There's only 5 things in the range, right? So there's quite a bit more in the domain than in the range here. And that's because of its step nature.